All right, we are live. UFC Vegas 20. The title is totally wrong here. We're going to have to edit that out. It's UFC Vegas 27, Font versus Garbrandt, the full card predictions and the betting preview, not UFC 262. But it should be a lot of fun. UFC 262 was a crazy ass card. Some of the picks were good. Some of the picks went to hell there, but overall did have a great night talking about the fights. Looking forward to next week's UFC stream, because I know we had some issues this week with the live stream. The computer died on us, but we got another one on the way. Things should also be better now with this one for the time being, but looking forward to that. We're talking about this whole card from bottom all the way up to the top. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for this video. Let's break into that 150 likes. What's up to everybody in the live chat? Michael Key, what's up, my guy? Good seeing you here. Let's start it off with the first fight of the night. Going to be in the women's bantamweight division, and I just saw this. Lupita Godinez fills in for Sarah Alpar, fills in for Sarah Alpar's opponent, who was supposed to be Stephanie Egger. That fight was supposed to start it off. Egger's out. Godinez comes back in. If you remember, Godinez recently fought against Jessica Penne. Granted, had some decent moments at the fight, let her hands go well, but Jessica Penne had a bit of back control there and ended up getting a close decision. Kind of could have went either way. I could have seen it led the way of Lupita Godinez. But on the other side, in Sarah Alpar, you have a girl who's a southpaw with a really awkward striking style. Does throw some decent looping overhand punches, but not with a ton of pop behind them. More so to set up takedowns. She does have pretty decent wrestling. I think in this matchup with Lupita Godinez here, on the ground, it's fairly competitive. I think Lupita has the striking edge for sure, but I think Alpar is maybe the better wrestler of the two. I do feel like I have to lean the way of Lupita on a full camp. My issue is this. Lupita moving up from 115 to fight at women's bantamweight 135 against a girl who's a good wrestler. If she would have had more time maybe to grow into that weight class. I don't love Sarah Alpar's style. I definitely don't think she's an elite level fighter. I thought that she was probably going to get a hard-fought win over Stephanie Egger. To now throw this matchup at us, it's going to be tricky, but the size difference to me is the factor. I think Lupita's technically superior, but she's going to be the smaller girl of the two. I mean, 116 was her last weigh-in. On the other side, Alpar at 135. I got to go with the natural bantamweight, especially on short notice. I think Godinez could potentially get a bit tired. I got Alpar on a decision. This one, definitely a weird one to be made here for Lupita, moving up 2 weight classes for it, but got to respect her for taking the fight. I got to lean Alpar, maybe a grinding decision. We'll talk more about this one later on in the week. We'll see how they look when they face off at the weigh-ins, but as of right now, I got to lean Alpar, and I do not want to lean Alpar, but I kind of have to here. Odds, Godinez minus 230 to Alpar at plus 195. That's interesting. Godinez opened up as a very large favorite. I think Godinez is really good, but I mean, moving up weight classes like this, I don't necessarily love the bet on her. Yeah, I mean, she's a natural strawweight. She's fought at strawweight for a while. Alpar on the other side, I believe she's been at 135 or 125. 135. She's normally at 135. I got to go with the bigger girl here, especially being a wrestler. I got to ride with Alpar to win it as the dog in this one, sitting at that plus 195 price tag. Maybe don't go crazy on it because it is women's MMA if you want to sprinkle with it. But we got to throw that it's women's MMA clause, and shit is crazy with women's MMA. But this matchup here, I think, is a lot more predictable of an outcome. I see this fight as straight action. I am really looking forward to this matchup. Damir Ismagulov versus Rafael Alves. I love the fight. I gotta say, they're doing Alves no favor. The guy looked good on the Contender Series, earns himself a shot in the UFC, and then you throw him Damir Ismagulov, who's an absolute underrated savage. Technical striker who's very patient, Good hands as well when he's in boxing range. He tends to like being in that boxing range, and he does mix in the kicks at a high level. If you look, I mean, he beat Thiago Moises on a dominant decision, had Moises hurt in that fight. Look how good Moises has looked as of late. He's on a run, and now he's fighting Islam Makhachev. Damir Ismagulov, 22-1, is a potential problem. You look on the other side, Rafael Alves, solid striker with a Thai boxing style. Likes those stance switches and does tend to throw a lot of power in his strikes. He does mix it up with the punches and kicks fairly well, but pretty much everything is power for him. Has that pressure forward style. I will say unusual techniques at time for Alves could put him out of position and get him caught here against Damir. Decent ground game, but at the end of the day, Damir Ismagulov is going to be an extremely strong favorite at minus 550 when they opened up. Let's see if that's accurate on best fight odds here. Damir Ismagulov, minus 525. You can find it even larger than that, minus 600. Alves, pretty big underdog here. Rough UFC debut. I think Ismagulov by a dominant unanimous decision is going to be this one. And I think that Ismagulov could potentially be a nice parlay pickup. Let's get to the next fight of the night. Yancy Medeiros versus Damir Hadžović. I am excited to see how Yancy does. After, 3 straight losses, we've seen a lot of guys losing 3 straight, not coming back looking the same. Granted, Yancy Medeiros a bit younger, 33 years of age. On the other side, Hadžović, 34. He's got 2 losses in a row. Didn't look great in either of those fights. With Yancy, I mean, he is a Nick Diaz teammate, so he does have that Diaz-esque style of striking. Rangy striker, does mix up the stances and brings the pressure. A lot of boxing, as expected with Nick Diaz guy, even though he does technically still train out of a different team over in Hawaii, still is collaborated with those guys there. Now, looking at the other side, Damir Hadžović is a Thai-style striker with definitely a pressure forward style. He likes to come to fight. He likes to mix it up in close. He makes it nasty, and he's decent inside, but really hittable in the boxing range. Looking on the other side, Yancy Medeiros bringing in that 5.5-inch reach advantage. The boxing skill set is superior. I got Yancy Medeiros winning this fight. I think he goes out there and puts on a decent performance. I think he gets the decision over Damir Hadžović. I have not been super impressed with either guy. Don't love the bet on either guy. It would definitely be a risk. Both guys pushing towards 35, both guys on losing streaks, but I got to ride Yancy Medeiros to win this one. Odds officially, let's see what they're sitting around here. Yancy Medeiros plus 100, Damir Hadžović minus 120. I like the dog in Yancy in this one, and I like him by a decision, outboxing and outstriking Damir Hadžović. Josh Kulabeo next versus Lilan Shah. Quickly, I will check on that live chat. See what's being talked about here. Some of you guys like Alves looking for the knockout. Darby Crash, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was great to be on Lock of the Night. Great dude over at Lock of the Night, man. Manpreet's a good man. I feel like that last one that we talked about is a riskier one to bet, but it's higher level than Pickett and Jordan Wright, but definitely wouldn't throw absolute money down. You need locks this week. I think the true lock is Damir Ismagulov. He can take my money. Let's make this money, man. Edmen and Jack definitely save this card. Yeah, Lupita still on the roster. Takes his fight on really short notice, though, up 2 weight classes. Don't like it. If it was the same weight, I would have definitely been riding Lupita. But let's talk about this one. Josh Kulabeo versus Yilan Shah. If you look at Yilan Shah, he actually recently fought against Zhu Rong, who recently made his UFC debut, had a decent performance, ultimately did lose that fight. But looking at Yilan Shah, from what I have seen from him, you have a solid striker with pretty decent hands, definitely has a wide stance, does seem to have that traditional martial arts background, and also brings in some pretty decent grappling and ferocious ground and pound. When he's on top, he'll look for the finish. On the other side, Josh Kulabeo, he's also a fairly decent striker. He mixes up the stances pretty well. He dropped Charles Jourdain in that last fight, had him hurt. From kickboxing range is definitely where he's going to shine. Does have some pretty good kicks, decent straight punches with the hands. Not an absolute one-touch knockout artist, but he can hurt you. I think in this matchup with Yilan Shah, just the competition level of alone just concerns me. Shah has not fought the highest level of guys, and the biggest name he has fought in Zhu Rong, he got knocked out. I think Josh Kulabeo should be a good pick here. I think he should come through. Granted, hasn't been getting the finishes in the UFC. You look at his prior two before entering the octagon, he had 2 knockouts. I like Culebao. I'll throw it out there by a knockout, but I could see it by decision as well in this matchup. But I do like our boy Josh Culebao from Australia to come through and get a big W as a fairly strong favorite here. Looking at the odds around -245 to +205. No props out yet for really anything. We'll get into those deep props a little bit later on tonight. But yeah, I will be riding Josh Culebao to win this fight against Yilan Shah. And he's a fairly strong favorite here in this matchup as well. Next fight of the night, Victor Rodriguez and Bruno Silva. If you doubt Bruno Silva after his last performance, you really shouldn't put it on JP Buys for the knockout. Victor Rodriguez on the other side got destroyed, badly beaten against Adrian Yanez. Yanez, though, hot prospect, definitely somebody to keep an eye on overall, at any weight class, but bantamweight especially and flyweight as well. With Victor Rodriguez, let's talk about some things about him that I have seen. Decent striking, I would say, mid-level. Stance switches, which, that's definitely an attribute. Could get you caught, though, if you're sitting and switching stances at the wrong moment, especially when you're in punching range. Definitely looks to fight from distance, and when he does come inside, he's going to look to close that distance and look for the clinch. I do think he likes those overhand punches. Only a 67-inch reach. Granted, his opponent not much longer with the 66-inch reach. Actually, he's the shorter reach of the two being Bruno Silva. Not a huge guy at 125. But what he does have is some athleticism. Definitely a very good kickboxer. Has come a long way. His career was looking like maybe UFC washout, but got a win in the last one against Buys in an upset, which he wasn't expected to come through. I think Bruno Silva made a name for himself there, and even in his defeat against Tegir Ulanbekov, he didn't look bad. He definitely gave a good fight. He's definitely got knockout power in the hands. He's explosive. He's aggressive. Good overall. I believe he has trained a bit with Henry Cejudo. That is evident. I got Bruno Silva putting it on Victor Rodriguez for a knockout in the second round here. So I'm going to be riding with Silva. He is the favorite in this one, -335. You can find it at now, -275 at the best. They've definitely spread out. If you like Rodriguez on this side, +275, but I don't like Rodriguez. I think he's way too hittable. I think his grappling's not good enough, and I think Bruno Silva is going to put it on him in this fight and get himself another signature win and move forward with his career. He's looking pretty good. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Bruno Silva. Now, next fight of the night, Claudio Silva versus Court McGee. At one point, Claudio Silva was looking good, was on a good streak, took some time off. In the last one, he lost to James Krause. Is known as a very dangerous grappler. Good submission skill set, lots of submission victories. I will say, don't love his striking. He's kind of awkward on the feet. I would say okay at best, very sloppy, and his chin comes up way too high. I think a guy like Court McGee could be a really tricky fight for Claudio Silva. He's a gritty fighter, definitely a longtime UFC veteran at this point, and he is aggressive as well. Does have a solid chin. Usually takes a lot of punches to hurt Court McGee. He tends to take shots fairly well, and even if he goes down, he tends to recover when he gets back up. He's going to look to close distance and let the punches fly. I think in this fight here, Silva's definitely going to look to wrestle. He's going to look to get this fight to the ground. Court McGee has proven fairly decent takedown defense. I don't see him getting submitted in this fight with Claudio Silva. Silva over the age of 35. He's 38, pushing 40. He's coming off of a loss. I got to ride Court McGee at 36. Yes, he's an older guy too, but I just like him better than Claudio Silva stylistically. I got him winning this fight. He also has a 4.5-inch reach advantage, which could be a factor. Court McGee, unanimous decision over Claudio Silva. That's my pick in this one. Let's see what the accurate odds are. They're sitting at about pick'ems. You could even find Silva at -150. Wow, so you can get some good plus money, +112 for Court McGee. Where's that at? That's at DraftKings. So go play Court McGee if you like him as the dog, because I do. I think he comes through and gets a win over Claudio Silva in this one. Unanimous decision here. Get to the next fight of the night, and I'll also be checking up on that live chat as we approach that featured prelim. Not there yet. Let's quickly look at this live chat and see what's being said here. Do I think Chuk versus Arujau was a robbery? Looking at that fight, I thought Arujau could have got the win. I don't necessarily say robbery, maybe controversial. It is what it is, man. I'm not going to hold any grudges too much in that one. I mean, it is what it is. That was just some disappointing outcomes on that UFC 262 card. I would not change my pick. If I could go back in that main event, I would still bet Chandler. I would still pick Chandler. He almost had the fight. Charles Oliveira, though, showed an excellent game and got a great win. Appreciate all you guys who are watching live. Smash that like button if you have not already on this video. Looking for that 150 like marks. Appreciate the kind words, Mr. Payne Hansen, in the live chat. Let's talk about this fight. Heavyweight division matchup. Ben Rothwell versus Chris Barnett, the Beast Boy, a.k.a. Ugly Bear. OG, if you've been following MMA for a long time, you follow some super heavyweight action. Chris Barnett was that dude weighing in at like 300 pounds, super athletic, would do backflips and whatnot. He's a crazy guy. 5'9", fighting at heavyweight is insane. He's taking on a 6'4" Ben Rothwell. Ugly Bear has not fared extremely well against decent level competition, and now to come out here against Rothwell, it's going to be tricky. Let's first talk about Ugly Bear, Chris Barnett, aka Beast Boy nowadays. Decent striker, will throw wild jumping, spinning attacks, which are just not going to be effective in the UFC. He needs to not do that here. Does have some ferocious ground and pound, super athlete. A lot of jiu-jitsu experience. The guy is by no means a bad fighter. Doesn't necessarily have the best boxing, though. A lot of his shots are big looping punches. A little bit Daniel Cormier-esque, but a lot less fundamentals than Cormier. Barnett's a fun guy, but definitely don't see him matching up well against Ben Rothwell, who's an unorthodox striker, definitely a pressure fighter. Some of the fastest hands for a guy 6'4", weighing, well above 265 on fight night. Solid submission game, too. I like every attribute for Ben Rothwell here. I think we're going to see Ben Rothwell get the win. I would love to see Ugly Bear get himself a nice upset and get a UFC win. The guy's been around for a very long time. I just think that is extraordinarily unlikely in this fight. And I got Ben Rothwell putting it on him, getting the TKO over Chris Ugly Bear Barnett in the second round. Could also see a decision in this one, because I will say Ben Rothwell hasn't shown that same killer instinct necessarily, but does still have the tools to win fights, especially against Chris Barnett. There should be no reason Ben Rothwell loses this fight. Let's look at the odds here for this one. Minus 245 to plus 185. Pretty fair. We'll throw in the heavyweight MMA clause, and you got a guy who's almost 40 in Ben Rothwell, but Chris Barnett is just not all that great. He's a good martial artist for sure, but as far as UFC caliber heavyweights, he's not going to fare well, especially as undersized as he is. I'm riding Ben Rothwell for the win in this one by TKO. He's also a moderate favorite. Maybe somebody parlay up, but it is heavyweight MMA, and crazy things can happen with one big punch. Let's talk about this featured prelim of the night. Bill Algeo versus Ricardo Ramos. I am really excited to see how these two fare when the cage door does close. Ramos is somebody that I'm actually pretty high on. I think the guy has a ton of potential. You look at the striking, he's an extremely good kickboxer, nasty low kicks, and he really is good at getting his opponents back from standing. He likes to use that arm drag, very high-level jiu-jitsu move. The guy does have high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu. At times, though, he throws really awkward and ineffective techniques, like that back leg kick, like the weird thing that he was doing. He would step with his rear leg and go behind the lead leg and throw a kick to the leg. That was against Lerone Murphy. It's an ineffective technique. There's no purpose for it, and it puts you out of position. I don't want to see that from him. I think the guy has a ton of potential, almost like a Charles Oliveira-esque at this point. That's kind of the feel I get from him. On the other side, you got a rangy striker in Bill Algeo coming off a nice win over Spike Carlisle. Does keep those hands low, which could get him caught at times. Granted, in this fight here, it's going to be interesting because Algeo's the longer of the two and the taller, and he tends to fight well at kickboxing range and controls the distance very well. Ricardo Ramos definitely does have the ground advantage. I think his submission game is a little bit underrated. I think he's had bad performances off a bad fight IQ, so I would not be comfortable betting the house on Ricardo Ramos. But, man, I think the guy should win the fight. I'm going Ramos. I got him winning the fight by submission. I think he does it in the second. I think he puts Algeo probably in a weird position. I think it's some type of neck submission, some type of choke here that we see out of Ricardo Ramos here over Bill Algeo. I got to ride with my guy Ramos. I think stylistically he matches up fairly well versus Algeo. Algeo's a bit hittable at times, and I think Ramos has a very good skill set. He just needs to get everything dialed in and right. I'm high on Ricardo Ramos. I like Algeo too. He's good, but I think Ramos is the guy to beat him, and I do think He has a high-level skill set. And even losing to Lerone Murphy, he's a high-level guy. That's a difficult fight. Plus 100 is Ricardo Ramos. Plus 108, you can even find him at Algeo, the favorite. I like the close, near pick'ems odds underdog here in Ricardo Ramos to win this fight. I'm going to ride with him here. Ride or die with your guys, and I am riding with him. I do think stylistically it's a good matchup. Now, supposedly, this is starting off the card. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new here, guys. Looking for that 150 likes on this video. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. But let's talk about this first one. The first one on the main card, Jack Hermansson versus Edmen Shahbazyan. We were supposed to see it at UFC 262. We didn't get to see it. Now we get to see it here this weekend coming up for UFC Vegas 27. No fans in attendance. But at the end of the day, going to be a lot of fun. High-level event. You look at Hermansson, you have a decent striker who's definitely light on his feet. Solid boxing, but awkward boxing, which could get you caught by a superior technician. Does have excellent grappling skills. The BJJ is very good. He out-grappled Jacare Souza. Jack Hermansson is really good on the ground. But on the other side, you have Edmen Shahbazyan, who is a very good kickboxer, has hands for sure, has skills with the hands. His boxing is good. Knockout power in the punches and in the kicks. His high kicks from the outside are devastating. He'll rip the body too with a ton of power, which you're going to feel it. He can hurt somebody bad. I think he could hurt Jack Hermansson bad here. Every strike has massive power in it, and I think he's just blessed with excellent striking. Watching that Derek Brunson fight, there was moments I really liked out of Edmen Shahbazyan. Derek Brunson is just a beast of a wrestler, and he has incredible power. Shahbazyan couldn't keep him off of him. Jack Hermansson does not have that same physical strength, not nearly the same physical strength of Derek Brunson. I don't think he's nearly as explosive. On the feet, he will not be nearly as competitive. I'm going with Edmen Shahbazyan. I'm picking him by knockout. I got him by knockout in the second round. I think he's putting down Jack Hermansson here. Picking the round, at the end of the day, it could be first, it could be second, it could be third, but I like Edmen Shahbazyan to win this fight, and I like him to do so by a knockout here over Jack Hermansson. Of course, Hermansson could put him in a bad position and get a submission, but I just think Edmen Shahbazyan has the tools to beat this guy, and I think the stylistic matchup, I got to go the way of Edmen here. Get to the odds for this one, the official odds. Plus 125 is Edmen. Minus 145 is Jack Hermansson. I like the underdog, Edmen Shahbazyan, and I like him to win this fight by a knockout over Jack Hermansson. I think he can do such a feat here. Hermansson is hittable from the inside range, and he's just not at the striking level of Edmen Shahbazyan, nor is he the best offensive wrestler. He's definitely decent, and he could get Shahbazyan down, but I feel like the athleticism will be a problem. We're at this fight now. David Dvorak and Raulian Paiva. This fight at 125 pounds flyweight division is popping. There is a ton of talent, and these two are some really talented flyweights. Let's first talk about Dvorak, a technical striker who likes to mix up the stances, does have some really nasty low kicks, and he is extremely patient. Sometimes I would even consider it hesitant. Granted, has worked out in his favor in the UFC. He slowly picks his opponents apart and works his way to decisions. On the other side, Paiva, he's a big 125-pounder, 5'8", with a 69.5-inch reach. He's 3 inches taller than his opponent here. Also has an 1.5 inches in reach. Solid kicks from kickboxing range. He's also pretty patient with his striking. Does put a little more output on his opponents, though, at least in certain matchups. He does like to pick his opponents apart from range. The thing I will say about Paiva, I don't necessarily think that he has the boxing of Dvorak. I don't think he has the defense of Dvorak. I think a lot more hittable in range is Paiva. The bet that I will say I like the most on this one is fight goes the distance, and I think David Dvorak wins a decision here over Raulian Paiva on the fight goes the distance bet. That's something that I would say has value to throw down. Fight goes to decision, minus 175. I think that's reasonable. Both guys tend to go the distance. Both of their last two have been decisions. I am going with David Dvorak victory by a decision here. The minus 175 fight goes the distance prop is probably one of the safest ones of the night. I would think about playing that. Dvorak at minus 145 is a decent parlay pickup. Got to acknowledge Paiva, though, does have a decent skill set and has some range. Riding Dvorak, expecting guaranteed decision fight here. Next one of the night, Felicia Spencer and Norma Dumont. Before I completely talk about this one, I'll double check up on that live chat if there's any activity going on here. Would have been a robbery of Arujao. Would have beat her up bad. Yeah, she didn't really go off. Good thing that you made those big dollars, bro. Good stuff. Yeah, I agree, man. We gotta fade these older guys, man. Live and learn. We gotta fade these older guys. Algeo's tougher. He is hard to put away. I agree, though. He's gonna learn a lot from the Brunson fight, man. Dvorak a stud. Yeah, I like Dvorak a lot too. I think Dvorak has potential to make a bit of a run. But let's talk about this fight, women's featherweight division, the weight class that does it really exist? I mean, yeah, it's here. We see it, but there's no contenders really outside of Felicia Spencer and Norma Dumont. I don't know what the plan is. Does Dumont get a title shot with a win? Maybe. You look at the side of Felicia Spencer. Not a great striker, but does have a taekwondo background, has a black belt in that. Very good on the ground. Her jiu-jitsu is really where she shines. Extremely durable, too. I mean, she's went the distance with Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. I mean, we got to give respect to that feat. Really, though, shines on the ground. Good submissions, especially from the top position. Has a lot of control from there as well. Will throw that ground and pound on the other side. Norma Dumont's no joke on the ground either. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. Definitely won't be as good with the grappling off her back than I feel like Felicia Spencer's top game. I think she's just going to completely smother her here when they go to the ground. On the feet, though, I like Norma Dumont. I think she has the better boxing of the two. Moves a lot. Her upper body and her hands are constantly moving as she's in that striking range, and she mixes it up decently with the hands, I will say. Mixes up the stances, too, but I just can't pick against Felicia Spencer here. Durability, high level, constant attack with the grappling. She's going to get on top of Norma Dumont eventually, and I think she gets a TKO or even a submission here over Norma Dumont. The bet that I like the most would be a Felicia Spencer inside the distance victory bet. That's what I like for this fight at the -160 favorite. We'll check out if she's still sitting around that range. You can find it even less, -140, +120. The odds have come closer. Under 2.5 rounds, +160. Maybe some action there. Fight doesn't go to the decision, +115. Yeah, I like Felicia Spencer, guys. I like her to get the submission or the TKO, but I do think it's going to be work from the ground. That's where you're going to see her doing her best work, and that's where she tends to shine. Her boxing isn't great. I think Dumont could potentially hit her with some decent strikes, but the wrestling won't be stopped. Let's get to this heavyweight featured bout. Justin Badman Tafa and Jared Vanderaa. I wonder if this will be the final lineup when the fights take place, because I'm surprised by it. Justin Tafa coming off a loss to Carlos Felipe. Before that, he did get a nice win. That was a big KO that he got in that matchup. If the name was, it was Juan Adams. Granted, Juan Adams not the most high-level guy, but it was an impressive KO. Before that, he lost to Jorgen De Castro in one punch. Jared Vanderaa, 11-5 as a professional, is 29 years of age, coming off a bad loss against Sergey Spivak. Does have a win over Harry Hunsucker. I will say, in that Hunsucker fight, he looked extremely hittable from boxing range. You look at Vanderaa, a big man who doesn't control distance extremely well, definitely a bit square, and has that plodding big man style. Will probably look for the body lock and takedowns. Justin Tafa, fairly athletic, a southpaw, and his striking is actually pretty good. He had a good back and forth with Carlos Felipe, took some big punches in that fight, some decent kicks too from the outside. I think the power in the hands definitely leans the way of Tafa. Vanderaa could potentially overwhelm him just with size, but I don't think so. I think Tafa has the actual weight and mass to deal with the bigger Vanderaa as far as the height goes. I got Justin Badman Tafa. I got Tafa with a knockout. I think first or second round here, I think, for this one. I like fight does not go the distance. I think we're looking at a knockout, but heavyweight fighting is weird, especially with the lower level guys. Even though 16 pro fights for Vanderaa, still doesn't have that high level style. Doesn't look to be a guy emerging as a top contender. He looks more to be a back end of the heavyweight division guy. +170 dog to the -200 favorite. Do I love seeing Tafa at a -200? Not really, because at the end of the day, extremely unproven, but I think he has the advantage here. And picking between the two, I got to pick Justin Tafa by a KO over Jared Vanderaa. Hunsucker got in close and ripped some big shots. I think if Tafa touches you, he puts you down and gets the finish. I got Tafa knockout. Next fight of the night is the co-main event of the evening. Women's bout here, Xiaonan versus Carla Esparza, the Cookie Monster. Carla Esparza, former champion, was at the top, has now climbed all the way back after getting destroyed by Xiaonan and Jacek on a win streak. If she wins this fight, she gets a title shot. She's an extremely good wrestler. She's got a lot of control from the top, I will say. Isn't necessarily a punisher, more of a grinder. She will lay, she will pray, she will hold, she will pepper shots, but she's not going to really necessarily look for that finish from the top position. On the other side, Xiaonan, a very good striker who moves extremely well and is also really light on her feet. Her striking impresses me. From kickboxing range, she's extraordinarily well. Has an awesome jab, which is not commonly seen in MMA. Does sometimes, when taken down, tend to get stuck in that guard bottom, but she's dangerous off the bottom, and I think she could cut up Carla Esparza. And I will say her defensive grappling is improving constantly and didn't look bad in her last fight, and that was against Claudia Gadelha, I believe. Yeah, it was. I think in this fight here, the best bet will be a fight goes the distance bet, and I like Xiaonan winning this fight with a superior striking skill set, a nice jab, and decent grappling defense. I got Yan winning this fight, moving forward as a contender. She's 4 inches taller, will have that range advantage, even though the reach is supposedly identical. Don't know if that's exactly true. We'll find out on fight night, but they are listed on Tapology as being completely identical. As far as the plus 110 dog, Xiaonan Yan, the minus 130 favorite. Fight goes to decision, minus 320, over 2.5, minus 375. I like the over in this one. I see this fight going long. I think that's a lock right there, is decision. And I got Xiaonan Yan winning this fight by a decision over Carla Esparza. Good co-main event. Work our way up, and we have arrived. I'll quickly be checking up on that live chat, and then we'll talk about this excellent main event. You think Dumont could be better everywhere? I mean, that would be wild to see. I don't know. I think that the wrestling of Spencer and Top Control is better, but we'll find out on fight night. We'll see what happens between these two gals. But yeah, definitely a Tafa pick, I think, is a good one here. All right, guys, let's get to it. The main event of the evening. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We are looking for 150 likes on the video. Thank you to everybody tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. I appreciate all of you for being here. On one side, you got Rob Font, the Boston native, taking on Cody No Love Garbrandt, the Team Alpha Male legend. Does also train with Mark Henry now. I really am excited to see this fight here between both of these bantamweights. They're both towards the top of the weight class. Let's first talk about Rob Font, who just emerged as a real deal contender. Really good kickboxing skill set. Likes to mix up the stances. His jab, extremely effective. And having a reach advantage here, 71.5 to 65.5, that could be a factor. 6 inches of reach is no joke. And I do think could be a problem for Cody when Rob's on the outside in this one. I will say sometimes you see Rob a bit susceptible to takedowns against like the better grapplers. Don't necessarily think Cody's going to look to wrestle too much here. I will say in that last fight, Cody looked dangerous. He's an excellent striker with extremely high-level boxing skills for MMA. His punching is explosive overall. He's an explosive athlete. His movement is extremely high-level. His footwork, his patience, his striking from the inside. From the outside, he could be caught by punches by Rob Font for sure if he's caught standing and can't get in. But he does move in and out of range at an extremely high level. I'm interested to see how this matchup plays out because Cody Garbrandt looked like a champion against Rafael Assunção. Rob Font looked really good against Marlon Moraes. The winner of this fight skyrockets their stock. If it's Rob Font, might even be title shot. If it's Garbrandt, it might be title shot too, even though he does have 3 somewhat recent losses. But the last one was a super impressive knockout. If Cody comes out on fire and gets himself the biggest win of probably a while, at least for him, because Rob Font's got some heavy stock coming into this one. Even though his last loss, interestingly enough, is to Rafael Assunção. Styles make the fights. I'm riding Cody Garbrandt by a knockout. I think that there's factors that could be problems, like the jab of Font, but he's definitely not nearly as technically sound as Cody Garbrandt. From the inside, clear advantage for Cody No Love. I got to ride Cody No Love. Knockout win, and I'm saying second round knockout here. I think he puts down Rob Font. I also think Cody's ready to work for 5 rounds if he has to. I just don't think Rob Font can keep up on the feet. His best chance maybe is looking to wrestle with Cody here, but Cody's known as a fairly good defensive wrestler, even though he doesn't go out there looking for offense all too often. I got Cody Garbrandt. I think he knocks out Rob Font. Rob Font has been hurt in fights before, but I will note he's never been knocked out. I think Cody Garbrandt's the first man to do it to him. Plus 105, Cody. Minus 125 is Rob Font. It's odds sitting around there. You could also even find them at Pick'ems. Fight doesn't go the distance at minus 270. I think that's a money bet because both guys finishers. Either way, I think we are in store for a super exciting main event. Overall, the whole card is looking extremely good. I cannot wait to see these fights. We're in store for straight action. You think that you guys didn't think he looked great against Asuncao? I don't know, man. I thought he looked on point. His eyes looked good. His movement looked good. He looked a lot better than we had seen of him in a while. Could he go out there and lose to Rob Font? Absolutely. Not throwing a lock of the night moniker down on him, but I do like Cody No Love in this fight by a knockout. I think he puts Rob Font down. Could go the other way. Rob Font definitely could get a win here. I like fight doesn't go the distance. I think that is a money move. You're looking for like a true lock style bet. But let's talk about some potential parlays to play. We don't have the props out just yet, so we won't be talking about anything like that. But we'll be parlaying some things up. We'll be talking about some safer bets, some smarter moves. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And let's talk about these parlays to play. Now, early in the night, we talked about Damir. I think he's an absolute money pickup. I like Damir Ismagulov here to win this fight. I like putting him down on my plays, man. I think that he's a good one, and I think Bruno Silva is another good one. That brings you to minus 183. And here's where things maybe get a bit more tricky. Maybe you're a bit more nervous and don't want to bet this fight straight up with Dvorak and Paiva. Maybe you think that they were both fairly good. What if you did this? Ooh, wrong one. Fight goes the distance. So if you have Paiva, Dvorak, fight goes to decision, Damir Ismagulov and Bruno Silva, both fairly strong favorites. I like the plus 143 money for this one right here. If you don't like the straight bet on David Dvorak, I think it's a fairly safe one. I think it could definitely deliver big for us here. Now, what are some other potential plays that we could add upon this? Women's MMA is a dangerous game to play, so we're going to skip on that one. Do I want to throw Ben Rothwell down? Older guy. I truly do not want to play Rothwell. Jared Vanderaa versus Justin Tafa. Both guys have gone this to the distance before. Don't necessarily know if we're going to see that here. Let's see how much it would be. Fight doesn't go the distance. Not even worth a bet. I think you're better off throwing Tafa if you're looking to throw somebody on. Who do I like to put on my plays? I just feel like Yilan Shah has not fought anybody good. I haven't seen anybody notable. I mean, he fought Zhu Rong, but he didn't do good in that fight. Culibao looked really good against Charles Jourdain, even in a draw. There were moments I really liked for him. I think he is somebody that is a fun player and beats a guy like Yilan Shah coming in on short notice. Granted, could be a risk because maybe Shah's improved tenfold over. We're going to think it's not. Fight goes the distance for the Paiva one, and then you got Culibao at minus 245, Bruno Silva minus 335, and Damir Ismagulov minus 525. And if you're looking for another safer play, I like fight doesn't go the distance for this main event. Brings you to plus 369. I think that right there is a money parlay, a safer parlay, and a high likelihood parlay here. I like this one. Definitely one of them that I will potentially be playing. Definitely got to be playing with some of those over-unders. Fight doesn't go to decision. Fight goes to decision. I think there's a lot of value in those ones, especially in this card here. I think this is a 5-fight money parlay at plus 369. I don't see why this wouldn't cash here. I'll be checking out the live chat in just a moment. See what some of you guys are thinking. Throw some parlays at me. Let me know what you guys think. Rob's reach advantage. He does use it well. Rob is going to be tricky. I will 100% agree. This is a very serious test for Cody No Love. I just think he's going to pass it, and I think he's going to maybe surprise a lot of us. But for Rob Font, if he is victorious, very skilled fighter, and he will emerge as a top guy, and that reach is a factor. But Cody No Love, I'm feeling it. I think he's got it. I think he's still here. I think Font's hittable against some of the shorter guys when they get inside real close in that punching range, and I think I see him getting caught. Now, some other parlays that I will play, I will be throwing out one of those dog parlays, one of those more risky parlays, but Damir Ismagulov is somebody I really feel I should put on every parlay of the night because I just think he should be someone that truly comes through large for us here, and I do think that he is a fairly safe one, but there's nothing safe about MMA by any means. Who is a dog that we could see come through, that we threw down, that we think is going to win? Edmen Shahbazyan. Stylistically speaking, you look at that matchup, I feel like Jack Hermansson, not saying he's overrated. He got a heel hook of Kelvin Gastelum. He got knocked out by Jared Cannonier. I think Edmen Shahbazyan matches up fairly well against Jack as long as he can fend off the takedowns. If the fight goes longer than a round and a half, I think that's maybe where it favors Hermansson controlling with the wrestling, but I think Shahbazyan can get him out of there. I like this one here. Edmen Shahbazyan, bring him on there as a dog pickup with Damir Ismagulov, looking at plus 168. Another dog that I said, but I would not really want to lean you towards betting him is going to be Ramos, but I'm not feeling a big bet on him. The fight IQ is something that does worry me. I like Bruno Silva, so now Ismagulov, Shahbazyan, and Bruno Silva plus 248. Some good money to be made on that one. And if you're going to be playing it, I think add in fight goes the distance for this one right here with with Raulian, Paiva, and David Dvorak. I think we're in store for a good amount of competitive action throughout this card. Some bets that I think can really cash here, but there's definitely some more riskier ones. You start playing that main event, maybe you have more risk. Cody, knockout artist. Rob Font, proven chin. Cody Garbrandt, maybe questionable chin, but does have the good gas tank. We'll see what happens in that fight. It's going to be some craziness. And also, if you want to sprinkle Sarah Alpar, she's 2 weight classes bigger than Lupita Godinez, who takes the fight on short notice. I don't know why the odds are looking the way they do for this one. I feel like at worst, minus 175, but they got her at a minus 230 over on Bet Online. So if you guys are looking to throw some bets down, I would throw them down as soon as possible. You think that Cody's done? I don't know, man. I think Cody's still got some fight left in him, but we'll find out. We'll find out. I'm excited to see Algeo. I've already been impressed with Algeo. I like Ramos, man. It's things I like from his skill set. And I do think that in this matchup against Algeo, I think he's going to shine here and have a great moment for himself, especially Algeo not having that same power that Lerone Murphy did. Overall, though, we're looking at a very exciting card. Some decent bets to be played. Damir Ismagulov is probably one of the safest ones of the night if you're looking for safe stuff. We'll be doing a full card betting breakdown a little bit later on in the week whenever they release the props, and we'll talk about maybe some better plays to even make. But I like that Paiva Dvorak decision bet. I like fight doesn't go the distance in the main event. And then I feel like also Edmen Shahbazyan as a dog that could really come through big at plus 125. Overall, we're in store for a really fun card. Bellator predictions will be dropping tomorrow. Cannot wait for that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to this live stream, talking about this full UFC Vegas 27 card, Font versus Garbrandt. It's an excellent main event. I cannot wait to see what happens in that main event. Smash that like button. Thank you to everybody tuning in live. If you're watching on replay, appreciate you all too. Smash those like buttons. Let's get that 150 like mark. Also, guys, if you want, follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I will see you all in the next video.